It had been very quiet regarding the Deshaun Watson situation. Nearly 3 weeks since the parties were in court, the lawyers accusing each side of destroying evidence. It had been cantankerous. It felt like it would continue to be cantankerous. Instead, it fell deathly silent in advance of the draft. There was some speculation that a settlement could be had before the draft, laying the foundation for an in-draft or maybe post-draft Deshaun Watson trade. Settlement hasn't happened. Continued to be quiet, very quiet, up until last night. Tony Buzbee, who represents the 22 women suing Deshaun Watson for sexual misconduct during massage therapy sessions, issued a statement, or more accurately provided quotes on the record to Mark Berman of Fox 26 in Houston, and a couple of takeaways. First of all, Buzbee said a settlement is not happening. That's important because that's the first we've heard from anyone involved in this regarding whether and to what extent settlement talks are occurring. Doesn't mean they haven't talked, though, Chris. What it means to me is, and I firmly believe they have been talking, but they have reached an impasse on one or more key issues that are preventing these cases from getting resolved. And sometimes what happens in a case like this, you find a way to apply a little pressure, to show a little bit of the sword, to do something to break that logjam. And that may be what Buzbee's calculated effort was in making the quote that he made last night, to try to break the ice and get these cases settled.
Yeah, I mean, it's curious that we have heard nothing. I mean, of course, I always listen to you in these type of matters, and I would have thought, yes, that there is settlement conversations going down here. But, you know, with this whole thing here, I mean, I don't know. How long does that take to iron out, to get a settlement figured out and all of that typically, Mike? I mean, I would think this one's going to take a long time with 22 plaintiffs, right, and everything like that. I wasn't expecting an end result, but I guess I'm surprised to hear you think this is just more of like propaganda or playing the angle of the game here to get what he wants.
I think that there are some global terms that are holding back the resolution, and that you got to get to a place where everyone's happy on a term that would apply to all 22. Because you could go in and you could settle 1, 2, this one, trim it. That's one way to do it. You trim it down to the cases that are the ones that are the hardest to resolve. But when you're dealing with one lawyer who has all 22 of the plaintiffs, and there is real value in getting all the cases resolved. What's the value to Deshaun Watson in settling 3 of 22? Oh, wow, only 19 left, right? You can chip away, but it still lingers. The cases move forward. At some point, you have to testify under oath in a deposition where Tony Buzbee is going to grill you for 8 hours about what you did, what you didn't do, and every other thing about the cases. So there's value in making all 22 come to a conclusion. And my guess is that there are one or more global terms that would apply to all 22 settlements that are keeping it from happening. That's just my guess. And yeah, I think that part of this too, and this is the other side of what Buzbee had to say, he expressed concern about the way the NFL is handling the Deshaun Watson investigation.
Yeah, what do you take away from that?
Well, and let me tell you what he had to say specifically. His concern is that of 4 women who met with Lisa Friel, who's the NFL employee in charge of these matters, some of the women did not feel like they were being respected. That is Buzbee's quote to Mark Berman. And Buzbee actually said he got involved in the most recent meeting that occurred, the 4th one. I guess so the client will feel like her concerns are being more adequately respected, addressed, whatever. And I don't know what that means. Does it mean they don't think that they're taking it seriously? Does it mean that they don't like the questions, they don't like the tone, they don't like the fact that they feel like they're being accused? Because, you know, sometimes in getting to the bottom of a situation, there's a level of curiosity that morphs into a question that someone could be defensive about, reasonably. Sure. If you don't have experience in that system, you're thinking, hey, I'm telling a story, I know what happened to me, what's with all these questions? You make me feel like you don't believe me. So that's possible too. Either way, Chris, he's putting public pressure on the league to do something, to take it more seriously. And that puts pressure indirectly on Deshaun Watson because, hey, if we don't get these cases resolved, I'm stirring up the NFL's hornet nest, and the Hornets aren't going to fly at me. They're going to fly at you, Deshaun, because the only way they can deal with me, other than saying that I'm the one who's at fault, and they will do some of that, but it puts the NFL on notice that they need to do everything they can for their own PR interests to create the impression that they are properly handling these cases, which means a little more aggressively toward Deshaun Watson and maybe move a little more gingerly when talking to the women whose cooperation the NFL has to have, or they can't do anything. They can't force these people to talk. So if these folks aren't comfortable talking, all Buzbee has to say is, that's it, we're done. No more of these people are going to cooperate.
Well, then they're not going to get the result they want from the NFL punishing Deshaun Watson, so they got to do that. Listen, some of the things I will not buy. The NFL's taking it seriously. Come on, I'm not – that's not – I don't care. Buzbee does a great job of putting pressure on the NFL, getting his message out, all those type of things. The NFL has been the opposite ever since the Ray Rice issue. It's they care too much. They're too harsh on the players. So it's very hard for me not to believe that the NFL is not taking this extremely seriously. And, yes, even within that, Lisa Freer, she's trying to get to the bottom of things here, And I'm sure she's done a little, background checks on some of these women and the accusations. And I'm sure she's asking some tough questions that they don't like. To, like you said, to get to the bottom of this. That's where it to me is just an innocent bystander here. I look at it where, if it's your own lawyer, the guy you hired, he always asks you, the good questions in a good way and makes you feel good about your case. This is someone trying to get to the bottom of it. They're not, applying guilt to either side here. So, I mean, that's kind of how I took it, Mike. I don't know where this goes, but I would think that if Buzbee wants what he wants out of this situation, he continues to let, his clients talk to the NFL.
One of the things that Buzbee said in explaining the discomfort that the women were feeling in talking to the league office, let's be clear, he said, every time these women recount this situation, they have to relive it. Now, that's a two-edged sword, because if this litigation goes forward, they will be grilled for 8 hours about everything that happened. And one of the things that a plaintiff sometimes learns the hard way, and I always tried to explain this to clients before they would file a lawsuit, and frankly, in the conference room as we're having our initial meeting, at some point I would say, I don't need you to tell me the answer to this question, but you need to answer this question for yourself. What's the worst thing you've ever done, you've ever said, you've ever been involved in any way that you would not want people to know about? What's the worst thing? Don't tell me. You don't need to tell me. But you have to assume if you go forward, it's going to come out. One way or the other, you're going to have to deal with it. And that becomes an issue, Chris, whenever someone claims that they have suffered any type of emotional distress, mental anguish, pain and suffering. Lawyers will use that as an opening of the door to delve into all the other adversities, all the other traumas, all the other stressors that an individual has experienced. Because if this person is damaged, we need to figure out what damaged them.
Yeah.
Was it this interaction with my client? Was it something else?
Right.
Was it an abusive spouse? Was it some other thing that occurred, something they did to create trauma in their lives? You're opening your life to all sorts of stuff. And, these things got filed so quickly. You hope that all 22 of the individuals
realize what they're getting
realize
into.
what they've signed up for, because it's more than just reliving that trauma. It will eventually be, when questioned by Rusty Hardin and his associates, reliving pretty much every trauma you've ever experienced in your life and every negative impact from the interaction with Deshaun Watson. And they already knew it. It's not like Buzbee saying that changes anything. They were still going to do it. But this confirms that this litigation process, and lawyers do it all the time, defense lawyers do it all the time. It's in the playbook if there is one. You make the experience as legitimately unpleasant as possible under the guise of, I'm just doing my job. That's how it works. That's how the game is played.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not surprised to hear that. And again, too, these are serious accusations, so I can't fault the defense for having serious, really tough questions here. yeah, they got to see. I mean, we and again, I'm not trying to say anything, but we've seen plenty of cases where we know people in these situations do lie and things like that. I've seen it both ways in the NFL.
Hey,
and I'm not trying to.
But Chris,
yeah,
they've already said, Rusty Hardin has already said, we believe they are lying.
Right.
So does that mean that when it's time to question them face-to-face under oath, they're going to operate with kid gloves? Or does that mean they're throwing the gloves down and it's time to start swinging?
That's right.
They're coming after these
Right.
people.
Yeah.
This is going to be the most unpleasant experience of their lives when they're grilled by Rusty Hardin, because he's already said, I think you're lying.
Yeah. No, I mean, yes, that's part of the pain they have to relive. And then, I know that's not easy. If this was true and it was tough for these women and all those type of things, I know that's not an easy situation. Definitely not. But, yeah, it's within the rights of Hardin and Watson to cross-examine and do those type of things to protect Watson, who's Hardin's client. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, again, Mike, okay, so here we are. I'm going to ask you, pasta meatballs, all right? What's anything new in the gut? Do you think this is going to get resolved before the season's over? You got any info that you hear out there where you feel like you got a lean either way?
I think that what Buzbee's doing here is trying to apply some extra pressure to Rusty Hardin and Deshaun Watson to get whatever it is that is holding up a settlement. Whatever that issue is, whatever the issue is, one or more issues, whatever it is, he's trying to get it resolved. I think that this is his way of stirring the pot just enough to nudge it toward resolution. My gut continues to be that these cases get settled before training camp.
Okay.
But, I wouldn't wager money on that, in large part because I wouldn't wager money on anything because I am extremely cheap. But I just believe if I had to pick one or the other, settled or not settled before training camp, I think these cases are going to get settled before training camp.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.